The mansion was silent, bathed in the soft glow of early morning light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. The billionaire, a man known for his cold precision and ruthless business tactics, lay motionless on the couch, chest closed, chest rising and falling slowly. He wasn't asleep. He was watching. Watching the maid's daughter, a quiet 10-year-old girl in a too-big school uniform, tiptoe into the room. She wasn't there to steal. She wasn't there to play. What she did next, so simple, so pure, stopped the man's breath. In that single moment, his entire worldview cracked. This wasn't a test of loyalty. It was a mirror. And what he saw in it would shatter his arrogance forever. The estate sat atop a hill overlooking the city, a fortress of glass. Marble, an unspoken hierarchy. Inside, every movement was choreographed. Staff in crisp uniforms, silent footsteps, doors that closed without a sound. At the heart of it all was Daniel Hartwell, a self-made billionaire whose name graced hospitals, tech startups, and Forbes lists. He prided himself on control, on reading people, on knowing who was worthy of trust. Among the staff was Clara, the head housekeeper, black, in her late 40s, with hands worn from decades of work and eyes that held a lifetime of quiet resilience. She had raised her daughter Naomi alone since her husband's death. When school broke for summer and childcare fell through, Clara made a desperate plea. Could Naomi stay during the day? Just quietly. Till she finished her shift. Daniel hesitated. He didn't like exceptions. But something in Clara's steady gaze made him relent in one condition. She stays out of my way. Naomi was small for her age, with braids tied neatly. In a backpack twice her size, she didn't speak much. She read under tables, colored in notebooks, and helped her mother fold linens. The other staff adored her. But Daniel barely noticed her until he started noticing too much. He saw her, staring at his framed degrees, saw her tracing the spines of books in his library. Once, he caught her trying to solve a math problem on a discarded receipt. Too curious, he thought. Too bold for a maid's child. And then the idea came, twisted, cold, but logical in his mind. He would test her. Not Clara, not the staff, the child. He'd pretend to nap in the living room, leave his wallet open, his phone unlocked, a stack of cash on the table. If she took even $1, he'd know the truth, that poverty breeds dishonesty, that no matter how quiet, how polite, she was still a risk. So one morning, he lay still, breath controlled, eyes sealed, waiting to catch her, waiting to prove he was right. But what happened? Next wasn't theft. It wasn't defiance. It was something he never saw coming. Naomi entered the room like a shadow, barefoot. Careful, carrying a small cloth and a bottle of polish. Her mother had asked her to wipe down the side table, nothing more. She moved with the kind of care only children raised too soon, understand, aware that one wrong step, one smudge, one loud noise could cost her mother everything. Daniel watched. Through slits in his lashes, the wallet, the phone, the $100 bill, crisp and tempting, lying beside it, his pulse quickened. This is it. She'll take it. Always do. But Naomi didn't look at the money. She didn't even glance at the phone. Instead, she knelt, sprayed the polish, and began wiping the wood in slow, concentric circles. Her movements were precise, almost reverent. Then, as she reached the edge of the table, she paused. A book lay half open, the autobiography of Malcolm X. She stared at it, not with curiosity. With recognition, gently, she closed it, aligned it perfectly with the edge of the table, and as if remembering something, she reached into her backpack and pulled out a small notebook. She flipped to a page, wrote something, then tore it out. Daniel's breath caught as she placed the note beneath the book. He couldn't see the words, but the gesture, deliberate, careful, almost sacred, and settled him. Minutes passed. She finished, packed her things, and left. Still, he didn't move. Finally, he snatched the note in neat, looping cursive. It read, "Malcolm X said knowledge is power. I hope you remember that." Naomi, the room tilted. He read it again, And again, not a plea, not a lie, a reminder. From a 10-year-old girl in a second-hand dress, doubt crept in. He reviewed the security footage later alone. Her every move, saw her glance at the cash, saw her hand twitch not to take it, but to straighten it, to make it neat, to show respect. And then, as she passed his phone, she paused, not to steal, to turn it face down so the light wouldn't disturb him, as if he were truly sleeping, as if she cared. His chest tightened. This wasn't obedience. It was integrity. And suddenly, his test felt like a crime. He thought of the way he'd dismissed her, her mother, her people, the assumptions, the stereotypes, the quiet belief that those beneath him were less smart, less moral, less worthy. But here was a child who had nothing, and gave everything, dignity, kindness, wisdom, and he had everything, and had just used it to spy on a little girl. Shame flooded him hot. It's unbearable. He had built an empire on intelligence, on strategy, on vision. But in this moment, he realized he had never truly seen a thing. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. The note lay on his desk, illuminated by a single lamp. He replayed the footage over and over, not to catch a thief, but to study a soul. The way Naomi tucked her hair behind her ear. The way she whispered to herself while working. The way she bowed her head slightly when passing a photo of his late mother. He had tested her for dishonesty, but she had tested him and found him wanting. By dawn, he made a decision. The next morning he arrived early, not in a suit, not with guards alone. He found Clara and Naomi in the staff kitchen. He didn't speak at first, just handed Naomi a new backpack filled with books, notebooks, and a note. For the girl who reminds me what power really is. Then he turned to Clara and bowed. Not a nod, not a handshake. A full, deliberate bow, slow, respectful. The room froze. Staff exchanged glances. Some gasped. Clara's eyes filled, not with gratitude, but with something deeper. Recognition. For the first time. She wasn't invisible. Later, Daniel canceled a board meeting, announced a new initiative, the Naomi Grant, a $10 million fund for underprivileged children's education, starting with scholarships for staff families. But the most powerful act? He replaced the Malcolm X book on his coffee table open and placed Naomi's note beside it. Framed a permanent reminder, not of his wealth, but of his blindness. And the child who opened his eyes. The story spread not from Daniel, but from the staff, from the janitor who saw the bow, from the teacher who received the scholarship letter. Within weeks, the billionaire who bowed to a maid's daughter became a global conversation. Some called it performative, others called it redemption. But most saw it for what it was, a rare moment of awakening. Naomi didn't become famous. She didn't want to. She just went to school. Read more books. Wrote more notes. But her impact rippled outward. Schools began discussing implicit bias. Corporations reevaluated their culture of merit. And parents asked their children, what would you do if no one was watching? Daniel never gave another interview, but in a private letter to a mentor, he wrote, I spent my life proving I was smarter than everyone else. It took a 10-year-old black girl to show me I hadn't been wise at all. This story isn't about charity. It's about perception, about how icily we label, judge, and dismiss, especially when skin color, class, or job title cloud our vision. Naomi didn't need to be tested. We did. So ask yourself, how many quiet acts of dignity do we miss every day? How many brilliant minds are we trained to ignore because they clean our floors, serve our food, or ride the bus in silence? And if you had the power to test someone, would you look for their weakness? Or would you finally learn to see their strength? Because the most profound lessons don't come from boardrooms. They come from a child's hand placing a note under a book and a heart that finally learns to listen. Truth isn't loud, but when it speaks, the world should stop to hear.